The president is giving his speech that is supposed to be about affordability, but it's much more like a stump speech. And with a lot of the economic data, you can see him reading and looking at the chart, trying to understand it like everybody else, and it hasn't been easy. This is a very big moment for us, and we'll keep monitoring this to see what else happens. But he's been going back into what we understand very well. Now, what's on the screen right now is not what I wrote, so I'm going to have to basically just read along from my computer here because, just like Trump, the teleprompter is, the enemy. So this affordability tour, the president wanted it, and I believe he actually needs it as much as anybody, and not for the reasons you may think. The picture he has painted tonight about the economy will not ring true in Northeast Pennsylvania, where he is, or basically anywhere else in the country. You don't have to move it because that's not what I wrote, so don't worry about the teleprompter. You got an easy job tonight. The president can call Democratic interest in affordability a hoax, but the pain is real all over the country. And he's going to be very aware of that no matter where he goes. Of course, he'll get the people with the red hats cheering for him, but many of them are feeling the pain as well. And I get why the president giving this speech from a casino, Mount Airy Lodge or whatever it's called now, drew barbs because his casinos did all go belly up, and for bad reason. Not exactly a good reminder of his economic prowess. But I thought the casino was a fitting location because this tour is a big gamble, as are his signature policies, the tariffs. So far, the tariffs have been a big problem for prices and profit and loss, P&L, for companies all over the country. If you notice tonight, the president talks about tariffs in the future. They will. That's because he doesn't want to deal with what they are doing right now. He can say they're going to be great and that tariff is one of his favorite words and that they're going to bring in billions. But so far, here's the fact. The money that tariffs are bringing in overwhelmingly comes from you, especially if you own a small business. It is not coming from China. China has thrived since Trump put his tariffs in place. Sure, they have structural problems in their economy, but it's not because of what Trump did with the tariffs. They've expanded who they're doing business with, and our businesses can't access what they got from manufacturing in China, which we have become very reliant on. You want to change that, fine, but changing it by punishing our companies, I don't think that this is the fix that the president is selling it as tonight. My friend Nika, Jim in a Box. I've had her on a lot because she is so emblematic of what small businesses are dealing with all over this country. 97% of U.S. importers are small businesses. Who pays the tariff? Not China, not the manufacturer, the importer, which is almost always a business that is importing. Overwhelmingly small businesses, okay? Nearly half of all American workers work for small firms. They are the backbone of the country. A recent study found that about half of the small businesses say the tariffs are harming their business, and about half say they are raising their prices. That is Nika's reality. She doesn't want to do that. But she's lost employees because of the immigration fears, and the tariffs are burying her bottom line. She is losing almost over $70,000 a shipment, and for a small business to have to pay out of pocket with a 100% plus tariff bill, and she has to pay it when it comes in, not after her sales. It's crippling for a small business, and that is her reality, and it's reality for people all over the country. So sure, you can go to jiminabox.la right now, and you can help out Nika and her small business. I use all her stuff. I think it works great. I give it to people all the time. I love it. But she is one of so many. And so you can say everything's great. It's not great for her. It's not great for businesses like her all over the country, okay? So the tariff money now is seeming more appealing. Why? Because he says he's going to give some of that tax money to farms. Okay. And he says he's going to give some of it back to you in a check. He's going to have to ask Congress for that, and his own party doesn't want it. But even if it did, all that money is coming from you. All the money that's coming in from the tariffs is coming from you, either as a small business owner or as someone paying inflated prices. That's where it's coming from. Even if you got a $2,000 check, which I don't think is going to happen, the average estimate of what it's costing each of you is $2,400. So that's just the reality. They can all applaud and they can love it, but that's the fact. If we're going to talk cost of living, we have to talk about the truth of how we got the problem. The president says Democrats created the problem. Now, let's just deal with the fact that the economy has done as well or better under Democratic presidents than Republican ones. Just Google it, okay? Job creation under Democrats has crushed job creation under Republicans. Just Google it. But this is not about party. This is about the pandemic. And Trump was responsible for a huge chunk of the spending that cratered the economy, okay? And some of the early policies that sent us sideways. This was on Trump's watch. That's when the pandemic started. And yes, he brought us Operation Warp Speed and the vaccine, but he doesn't talk about that anymore because MAGA, through misinformation and disinformation and what's on social media, have come to hate the vaccine. And so he doesn't talk about it. But he owned the beginning of the pandemic, and then Biden took over and continued a lot of the same policies and made some of his own mistakes, and that's what sent the economy into the hole. But the idea that, Trump gets a pass on the pandemic and Biden has to own all of it, that just doesn't make any sense. He spent north, the president, Trump, first administration, $3 trillion during the pandemic. And the delay in urgency in addressing the pandemic was debilitating, okay? That's why everything went down the tubes. After the pandemic, he can say Biden was brain dead. He can say that the Inflation Reduction Act did nothing, but the economy was recovering. Wages and jobs were growing, inflation was coming down, and the stock market was juiced with all that money that had been pumped into it. And that is what President Trump inherited. That is the fact. Look year over year, the last year of Biden and this year of Trump. That's the comparison. It is not a rosy picture for this administration. So what has he done with what he was given? The election was about gas and groceries. His claim is that gas prices are below $3. I say where? Okay, was that Gas Buddy? In blue-collar cities like Stockton, California, it's over $4. Tacoma, Washington, Eugene, Oregon, they're all higher than that. And yes, America is producing more oil than ever, but that was also true during the Biden administration. That's not new under Trump. Grocery prices nationwide are up 2-3%. They're up a lot more in certain pockets of areas. Pennsylvania, grocery prices are up over 8%. West Virginia, up 7%. Tampa, Florida, up 5%. New Jersey, where Trump wants to win big, they're up 7%. And then there's what he didn't mention. Our increasing reliance here as families on really expensive debt. Auto loan debt is up. Credit card debt is up. Delinquencies are up, especially among younger and lower earners. That's why you're getting this populist outrage that the left has tapped into. 60% of Americans say they can't afford a $1,000 expense. And you know what I mean? Like a God forbid. 60% can't afford a $1,000 God forbid. About half of us don't have enough savings to cover 3 months of expenses if, God forbid, you lose your job. Trump says an immigration crackdown will make it better for us as workers. He cites a stat from a government survey claiming there's now 1.9 million more American-born working under Trump. It's fake news. Why? Because there aren't more of us working. They changed how they count American workers. That's why the number went up. When you look at the government unemployment data on native-born Americans, it's also up since last year, okay? Trump can rally people in the crowd, but can he sell people around the country that the economy is better than what they see every day? I believe he better be more careful playing with people's realities when it comes to pocketbook economics, because people running small businesses will not forgive the exaggeration. Talking about the country overall and how great we are and his wealth, his prowess, his intelligence, transport. Look, all of that he can exaggerate. That's what he is. And the voters have weighed and measured him, and he was reelected. But the idea that, well, Thanksgiving was cheaper this year. No, it wasn't. Turkeys were down because suppliers absorbed the additional cost, but everything else went up. So the overall meal went up just about everywhere. And with Christmas coming, almost half of us are saying we have less to spend on Christmas this year than last year. That's the reality. He can say he saved Christmas, but it doesn't feel like that if you don't have the money to do what you want to do with this holiday season. Affordability is a new term, but it is a timeless priority for families, and it will determine the midterms. It is not a surprise to me that about 15 minutes into this speech, the president went from talking affordability to talking transgender sports. And then the rest of it was the same old speech from the election. But the election is over. The president won, and he owns the reality, and people are hurting. He only touched on health care briefly and quickly to say that Obamacare is the problem. And his solution is to give you money directly. Ask yourself, no matter what the amount of money is that he were to give you, why would that make costs change? He was right to bash the corporate overlords that run these insurance and healthcare companies, but what is he going to do about them? Does MAGA have any magic for that? Because I haven't heard anything. Well, we're going to give you healthcare savings accounts and you're going to get the money. But what about the costs, right? If a car costs 70 grand and you can only afford 50 and I give you the 50, what difference does it make if the car is still 70? If the healthcare costs are still going up, what difference does it make how we pay for it? You got to find a way to bring the cost down. You're not going to get a cheaper plan because you can go to other states if they don't have any incentive to bring the cost down. And to bring the cost down, you have to take on the biggest, meanest, richest power structure in our country. And I don't know that the president has a plan for that. And he certainly didn't name one tonight. So the president asked for this affordability tour, and I am excited by the prospect, not because of what I think he's going to say, but because it allows me to talk to you for 10 plus minutes tonight about what actually matters in this country and not how we bomb drug boats or who in his administration is gay or what may be in the Epstein files. This is what America is about, the crisis to figure out how to live your dream as you see it. The Democrats are right to seize on it. The president is making a mistake pretending it's not a big deal and that everything is going the right way. That is a loser in the midterms. And I'm going to stay on this issue as long as we have the opportunity with this tour. So let's discuss what's happening because the president's right. Okay? Man, the country has changed in the last year. That's what he said tonight. And he's right. He's right. But I don't know that it's changed for the better. Certainly not if you're monitoring it by social media. I'll tell you what, the crisis here is what you can afford, not what immigrants are doing, okay? That's not what's ruining your life. That's not what our crime problem is. The biggest national security threat is homegrown extremists, okay, not undocumented immigrants. The president is right. A year in, we are different. We are more rageful. We are more hateful. We are more divided. And I believe this issue can be what brings this country to a better place if we stay on it and we get better ideas than we have right now. So that's what I heard. That's what I see. I'm going to stay on this as long as I can because I got too many friends who are suffering. And small businesses matter. And a lot of them are going to go down because of these tariffs. So what do our leaders believe is the state of play? Okay? Let's bring in Democrat, member of Congress, Representative Subramanyam, and Republican, member of Congress, Mr. Pete Sessions. Thank you very much for coming on together. It means so much to my audience to see right and left coming together to be reasonable. I start with you, Pete. The president, a lot of this was the stump speech, but do you echo his feelings about how this country is doing economically on his watch?
Chris, good to see you. The questions that abound in Washington right now are how we're going to have a Republican plan to take care of the health care issue. And I believe that this will be a huge win for Republicans. As you know, you've had me on for years. You've heard me tout that members of Congress and people who work for companies get a subsidy. That subsidy is pre-tax contribution, and we need to make sure that if you do not have that you get it. because of the subsidy issue, it means that health care has gone way more expensive. But here's the biggest problem, and it's not news to you, that when I was on Obamacare for 6 years, I never once used my insurance. I used my deductible, and the deductibles are too high. So I would just tell you, you didn't hear the president say it yet, or at least we didn't yet, and that is that Republicans have to have a new health care option and possibility, and I think we'll do the right thing. And I think we will, for some 120 million Americans, allow them the opportunity to have the exact same subsidy that someone that works for a company that has employer-provided health care, to have that for their individual accounts. And I think this is going to be awesome, and I think it will be a huge thing for the American people and for costs.
Well, I look forward to that discussion, Pete. And when you guys put meat on the bones, you're welcome here to make the case. Suhas, look, you can't argue that people need subsidies, especially for the ACA, but also for the 120 million or so that gets it through their employers or other collection groups. But let's talk about why. The reason why is because costs keep going up. And that's what has to be addressed. Otherwise, you guys are just going to use more and more of my money to help people who don't have as much money as I do pay costs that we can't seem to get under control. Do you believe Democrats can play to advantage on this issue? And if so, how?
Well, you're absolutely right that the biggest problem in healthcare is not just coverage, it's cost. And so even if you cover everyone or as many people as possible and try to subsidize the healthcare that they receive, in the end, we're still not tackling the issue of cost. And so the cost of delivering care right now is so expensive, the cost of going to a hospital. I mean, I served as an EMT, and people were more afraid of going to the hospital in the ambulance with me than they were of their ailment. I mean, that's how bad things had gotten. Jeez. And so that's what we also need to address as well. And I know a lot of people are putting together legislation on Capitol Hill. It needs a vote, and we need to make this bipartisan. It needs to move forward in Congress. We've been talking about costs for a long time, but we actually need to do something about it now.
All right, gentlemen, let me go. I'm tight on time because the president started very late, but you're both welcome back to discuss once the plan is on the table. We'll give it more time here than anywhere else. This is the issue. This is what matters to the country, not who in the administration is gay or the Epstein files or any of this nonsense that becomes clickbait. You are welcome here to discuss what matters to the majority every time. So thank you very much, members of Congress, and we'll see each other again soon, okay? Let's take a break. 4 minutes and 35 seconds. You heard lawmakers. I want to bring in some better minds who've done the job as governors, okay? Because, look, I think health care is the big ticket, man, and nobody wants to take them on. You can trash talk them once in a while, but nobody wants to take them on. They have too much power. They hire too many people, and they give too much money in lobbying money. That's the deal. Because, look, if Trump's best plan on health care is to give you the money, which doesn't really affect costs, and to just say the ACA sucks, let's get rid of it, that's all they've ever said. Is that better or a different type of worse? Two governors who did the job, two perspectives. Next.
We inherited the worst inflation in the history of our country. Think of that. And we're bringing them down rapidly. Their entire agenda is about robbing working people to fund their far-left cronies and give lavish benefits to foreign migrants.
The president kicking off his economic tour. It's a great opportunity for us to get rid of the distractions and talk about what matters. Now, look, I didn't hear anything new from the president. He says everything is so much better now because of his policies. Is that how it is in your life? Because it's not like that in my life, and it's not like that for small businesses all over the country. So let's discuss. Former Republican governor of New Hampshire, friend of show, Mr. Chris Sununu, and former Democrat turned independent, was senator, of course, but also governor, West Virginia, Joe Manchin. Good to see you both, fellas. Thank you for being with me. So, Chris, I'll give you the first swing at my head. Do you believe the president gave people the straight dope tonight on the state of the economy and his tariffs?
Well, I'm going to be a true politician, and I mean this sincerely. You're both right. You really are. And I heard what you said at the top of the show, and I think you hit it. The president, I mean, there's no doubt energy costs have come down, eggs and a few certain products have come down. When you talk about affordability, you're really talking about, for the average American, it's housing way up, healthcare way up, and the regulations that surround those things are really making it difficult. And you brought up a really good point. Oregon, Washington, California, geographically, there's a huge disparity there where those prices are way up. Housing and healthcare and insurance, nobody can afford it out there. New Jersey, Illinois, places like that. But if you look at Iowa or Oklahoma or Mississippi, I was just in Kansas City, a lot of groceries have come down, a lot of affordability in those states. So my argument is you have to look at it geographically, and you have to look at it at product by product. The big one for me, though, is energy. No doubt that has come down, and that kind of relates to everything as it moves around the economy.
Right, I agree. The question is why. Now, Joe, I don't want to step on your own message. So you tell people what you want in terms of what you're ready to talk about with healthcare. But the idea of giving people health savings accounts and allotting the money, that's fine. Yeah. It doesn't change the cost structure, though, Joe. They're still going to charge whatever they can get away with in these companies.
Well, let's start first of all. What Chris said, he'd give you a pretty good analogy of what's going on. The bottom line is energy is two different forms of energy. What you pay for your electricity in your house, what you pay for the natural gas you heat your home with, those have not come down, no matter what they're telling you. The pump now, if that's the energy you're talking about, it's stabilized more. But we've done that for a long time, it came down. You know, you can't, the people of America, they're not stupid. They know what they're seeing, they know what they're feeling, and they're reacting to that. And I would tell President Trump, I want him to succeed. Every red-blooded American should want your president to do well and succeed. But speak truth to power. You know, you can't tell me that the sun's shining when it's raining like hell. You just can't tell me, make me believe that. So we're in a situation now. Healthcare, it is fixable. You're going to have to keep the subsidies on the low end of the working poor that are trying to get to a livable wage. But with that, you can put roadblocks. You can put guardrails, not roadblocks, but guardrails to where they have to live in the parameter. They get certain, basically, things for preventive care, and they're able to go to the doctor so many times. You can't abuse the system. No one's doing anything talking about that because Democrats don't want to talk about that. On the Republican side, I think they have a good idea on medical savings account. No different than 401ks. We got 401ks. Now, I own my retirement system. It goes everywhere I go. I'm responsible for that. Let me be responsible. Let me start shopping. Let the American people, Chris, shop for health care like they know how to shop for everything else. Yes. And I'll guarantee you it'll be competitive.
I'm with
You'll
you.
bring it down.
I'm with you with the agency. I'm with you with the agency thing, okay? I'm making a different point, okay? You want to use 401k as an analogy, fine. I have control of it. How my 401k does, fellas, does not affect what I'm going to buy with that money and that cost structure. Okay? People are going to charge what they're going to charge for cars, for housing. If we're talking about health care, you putting the money into an account in Chris's name, and I get to look, I'm not going to find better prices because you're not affecting their ability to charge, Chris. That's my point. You have to take on that part of the problem.
Sure. Well, look, there's no doubt that I think yeah.
Look at them both.
Yeah, look, I don't mind the idea of these accounts. I really don't. Joe really hit it on the head with the idea that you need to open up a free market in all of these things. You need to get deregulation really going, whether it's in healthcare. And you don't make massive changes to the healthcare system tomorrow. You need an off-ramp. If you want to change it, I have no problem with that and get to a free market. That would be great. But you need an off-ramp. You need to do it gradually over time, without a doubt. But look, there is no doubt that there's a lot of product. I represent the airlines now. It has never been more affordable than to fly across this country. I mean, I think since 2019, prices have gone up like 1% or something like that because competition keeps it down. Government stays out of it. Competition reigns. Prices go down. So my argument is always to get the government out of the business of business, right? And that again, goes back to the deregulation, the healthcare, cross lines, all of it.
Hold on. Airfare prices are coming down also because demand is down. All right, it's like gas prices.
No.
One of the reasons gas prices have come down on the retail side. Well, when the prices went down, you then saw a recovery in the demand curve. Two things could be true at the same time, Chris. People do not have the disposable income that they had pre-pandemic, okay? The ratios are off, Gov. And I think that this is the signature issue, Governor Manchin, Senator Manchin, whatever, you've held every title.
Joe,
this is the issue. This is the issue. Joe, this is the issue for the American people. Not transgender sports anymore, not who's gay in the president's administration, not what's in the Epstein files. Affordability is the issue.
This visceral language is not going to change anything. The president has to understand people are feeling the hurt. People that are on the top end of the income ladder, they're doing very well. They're living a better life now than they've ever lived before. I understand that. People that I know and Chris know and are working people from our home states, they're having it hard. They really are having a harder time.
They're having a hard time.
They don't know where it's going to come.
They're having a hard time.
They don't see that we're fixing anything. I just left some of my friends from the Senate. I try to gather with them from time to time. They're very discouraged. Nobody wants to work together. And the American people are depending on them to work together. The president has to bring them together. That's his responsibility. Chris knows that. I knew that. We didn't have Democrats, Republicans in West Virginia. We had West Virginians that had to fix the West Virginia problems, the same as New Hampshire. So I know what's going on there. I'm begging the president, calm down the rhetoric, Mr. President, please. The people aren't stupid. They know they're having some problems. You can say this, Mr. President. Listen, things are not as good as we want them to be. We've stabilized them, and we can make them better if we work together. The supply chain's not coming back as quick as we thought. Manufacturing's not coming back as quick as we would like. And until that happens, I can't give you what you want. Now, if they're telling me that the tariffs, if the tariffs are working so darn well, why are you giving $12 billion to the farmers? Why are you wanting to send a $2,000 check to every American? It makes no sense.
Which is their own money.
$38 trillion debt. The $38 trillion debt. And let me tell you, we as Americans, we will take the pain if you pay down the debt. But just don't give it away and give it back and increase the debt. That makes no sense.
Well, Gov, if I were talking to Governor Sununu, or as President Sununu, that's a good sell. President Manchin,
amen.
That's a good sell. Work
Here
on.
we go.
But this
Hey, Chris,
president,
we can do it, buddy.
Not this again.
We can do it.
Not this again.
No. I'm saying this. This president is not you guys, okay? This president believes in the division. He believes in us versus them. And social media has echoed that ambition. And nobody wants to work together because it's not the currency. I'm telling you, my phone is blowing up with comments right now, and it's one of two flavors, okay? One is, stop lying, Biden sucked, everything's getting better, enjoy the ride, give it some time. That's one. The other side is, every word this guy says is a lie, and his answer on health care, which is crippling people, is Obama sucks. And, you know, he's going to take care of his rich friends some other way. That's where people are. Nobody's saying work together, Chris. They've abandoned that hope. What do you do about it? Last word to you.
All right, there's three things you do. Gerrymandering, you're not going to fix. Term limits, I love the idea because you got to get some of these guys out. And most importantly, campaign finance reform. Let's take money out of the system and get people thinking more independently on their own as opposed to just catering to $100 million Senate races. And I'm going to leave with that. Well, here's just an idea, just a random idea. Joe Manchin for the U.S. Senate. I don't know. I'm just throwing it out there. Maybe he'll
Oh,
consider
yeah,
it.
no. Oh, Chris, I've spent 42 years, Chris. It's your turn, brother. It's your turn. Let me tell you, we need you.
I'm
We
busy
need
making
you up
money.
there. You can do it. And let me. Hey, do this, Chris. Open up the primaries. Have open primaries across the country. I'm an independent. I'm disenfranchised.
That would be
I can't
something.
vote in my state. It's ridiculous. Open the primaries up. You'll get better candidates that basically they can't target and say, you're not a good enough Democrat. You're not a good enough Republican. We're going to bet primary you can get rid of you. No. Let the people make that decision.
We have it here in New Hampshire. It works damn well.
Amen.
No doubt about it.
That's exactly.
Amen. We don't have it here in New York, and it sucks. Joe Manchin, thank you very much. Chris Sununu, thank you very much. By the way, Joe Manchin has his new book called Dead Center. It's in defense of common sense. It's a great book. I'm using it now almost as a text. Fellas, thank you. We'll talk again more. 4 minutes and 30 seconds. So, this is a heavy one. Just weeks before Charlie Kirk was assassinated, he had finished a book called Stop in the Name of God: Why Honoring the Sabbath Will Transform Your Life. His wife, Erica, made sure the book made it to the masses as a tribute to his legacy. What did Charlie want out of this book, and what do we make of the response to it, which has been very hot and hostile. The faith leader of Charlie's organization, TPUSA, comes on to address the criticisms and what the concern was.
Why is Christianity true? Well, first, let's just test the 10 Commandments. If you follow the 10 Commandments, your life will be objectively better and your society will be objectively better, right? I mean, not killing, not murdering, not stealing, honoring your parents, not having anything above the idea of a sovereign God, right? Resting for 1 day a week, not lying. These are things that we can all agree, like, okay, that's a good way to build society.
All right. Look, anybody who knows anything about Charlie Kirk knows that proselytizing and projecting his Christianity was very important to him. And weeks before, his life was taken by an assassin's bullets who shot him because they didn't like what he said. He had a book called Stop in the Name of God, Why Honoring the Sabbath Will Transform Your Life. Charlie believed it. And you could say, oh, I don't think he lived it, and I don't like what he said. Okay, those are your opinions. I'm telling you, this is what Charlie thought. And when I was on the PBD podcast with him, we talked about it for a long time. His wife, Erica, wanted the book to come out. Now, there is a lot of pushback on social media of people who are saying really nasty things about Charlie and about the value of this book. So let's get a better understanding of why the book was so important to the people at TPUSA and what they think of the reaction to it. We have Senior Director of Faith, Lucas Miles, joining us tonight. Thank you very much for taking the opportunity.
Thanks for having me on. It's an honor.
Why is it so important for you guys in the wake of what happened to Charlie for this book to come out?
This is a project that was very near and dear to Charlie's heart. I had the opportunity to talk to him about it a couple times over this last year. He had called me in when he first decided to write it and said, hey, don't share this with anybody. I'm working on this project, and kind of wanted to get my initial reaction on it. Charlie, even though he wasn't a pastor, even though he didn't have a bunch of degrees behind his name, I mean, he was truly a scholar. He put together a definitive work in this book on this idea of Sabbath. You know, as Christians, we believe ultimately that, yes, Jesus is our Sabbath. He is our rest, that we find our wholeness in him. But there's also the practical side of this, that as we wait for our eternity with our Savior, that on a day-to-day basis, on a week-to-week basis, that we have to find our rest in the Lord. And Charlie was a master of that. And he was a guy that on, when it came to his weekends, Friday night through Saturday, he would shut off his phone, he'd shut off the television, he would spend time with his wife, he would spend time with his family. You couldn't reach him. There were times operationally where I would have loved to have gotten some answers, but I knew this was a time where Charlie lived this out. And I'll tell you, as a pastor, I've been preaching at the same church for 21 years. This was convicting for me and started making me look at how to reorder my life, just to get the kind of peace that I saw in Charlie's life. I think this is one of his superpowers that made him such ultimate performer that he was.
What is your reaction to the criticism of Charlie's message, even posthumously, even after his assassination, people saying a book about God, this guy was a bigot and a divider and a hypocrite. I don't want to hear from him. What do you want people to know about those criticisms?
First off, I'd say this is that, just the attitude of Charlie was that we don't have a lot of time for haters. I mean, we've got a mission to do. We know what that mission is. The marching orders were clear. They always were with Charlie. And I was honored to serve him for the last 18 months in this role. I'm honored to continue serving him, as we move forward in this way. But I think that, it's important. We think about things like, okay, was Charlie a
Excuse me.
Bless you. Was Charlie, somebody who was, just kind of stirring up trouble for people? If you show up to somebody who's wandering around in the desert and they're dying of dehydration, and you show up with a smile, directions to the nearest town, and a big bottle of water, that's not controversial. It's the truth at that moment is welcome. The only person that the truth is controversial to, or the truth is provocative to, is somebody that doesn't actually want the truth. This book is about what Charlie found in life, that he lived out. He had peace. He experienced rest. rest. It refreshed him. It's what allowed him to do and to be as effective as he was. It's what allowed him to have such a good marriage and be such a good father and to just find that fulfillment in life. And a major part of that was him shutting down, cutting out the distractions from his life, focusing on this Sabbath day rest, and really just being able to hear from the Lord, being able to get re-in-tuned with his family, reconnected with his wife. And I think we around him, we saw the fruit of that in their lives, in their marriage, in how he led. It was truly remarkable.
Well, Lucas, I appreciate you. Thank you for coming on and giving us some context. And the book is out again. Again, Stop in the Name of God, Why Honoring the Sabbath Will Transform Your Life. Thank you very much. And there's Lucas's book, if we want to pop it back up there so people can see it. If not, I'll just tell you about it when I come back. There you go. Pagan Threat, Confronting America's Godless Uprising. Provocative. Lucas, thank you. Let's take a break. When we come back, a lot has been put out there. You have a lot to say, so let's get after it. 844-968-7720. All right, Dusty, who do you got?
We got Gary from Fort Wayne, Indiana.
What's your question?
Well, Chris, it's more of a statement than a question regarding the excessive insurance premiums we're paying. I'm 83 years old. I'm retired. I worked 60 hours a week when I was younger. I saved my money. I invested my money. So I have a pretty good retirement income. But and a lot of people, when they retire, they think they've got it made when they get on Social Security and Medicare. Well, there's a big surprise coming under Medicare. Last year, I paid short of $24,000 for all Medicare and supplement plans. Now, this coming year, just my Medicare Part D is going up 43%. Then I got my statement from my Social Security and everything. That's also going up. So next year, in 2026, I will be paying, for my wife and I, approximately $29,000 in Medicare and United Healthcare insurance premiums. So people...
Gary...
Yeah.
Gary, when you hear the president say the answer is we're going to give you the money that goes into the subsidies, not that you'd qualify, but we're going to put money in an account for you and then you can shop wherever you want. Do you think that's the answer? Do you think anybody's going to charge less because people have money in an account? Did I lose him? Okay.
If I have Medicare and I have an operation, it's $5,000 and you don't, but with Medicare I only have to pay $2,000. Why should you have to pay $5,000 because you don't have Medicare? The price should be the price regardless.
I agree with you on that. But that is about putting guardrails on how they can charge. And I know people say that's not capitalism. Capitalism without consciousness, right? Without a conscience is just greed. Dusty, next.
Next. Linda from Pennsylvania, where our president is right now.
Linda, what's your question?
Well, I'm not so much a question as I like your show. I really do. I've been watching you like every night. But, sometimes, pardon me?
But?
Sometimes you say don't blame other people, but you point the finger at them too.
Give me an example.
Well, what you just said tonight about, just some of the things you said about President Trump.
What did I say about him personally? Nothing is the answer. But what did I say that is blaming him that is not fair?
But he's in Pennsylvania, but he's supposed to be talking about affordability. Now, I didn't watch the whole thing. I know he gets off. He gets off track really quick with other stuff. That's just the way he is. But but as far as him saying, another thing I want to say is as far as him saying about like energy prices coming down, non-Pennsylvania, our Gov ain't doing nothing. As a matter of fact, PP&L, our electricity supplier, is raising their rates, and so is our water company.
Yeah, and I'm getting the same stuff. I'm getting the same
Yeah.
stuff here on the eastern end of Long Island with my guests. That's why I think the president's got to be really careful, because he's telling you things are good and you know it isn't from your own life. And
I
that's
agree.
different than hearing that he's a genius. And the opportunity here, the reason I wanted this affordability tour so much isn't because I want to see Trump, gin up a crowd and say that people like me are fake news so you feel good about threatening me and my family. It's because it's an opportunity to talk about what matters instead of bombing drug boats and who's gay in his administration and what's in the Epstein files. You know, the energy prices are going the wrong way for most people in this country right now, and they know it. Opportunity for Democrats. Not just to talk about what's wrong and say Trump is a liar, Trump is wrong, blah, blah. That's easy. That got them where they are right now. What are their better ideas? I think it's a good opportunity. So
Well,
I'm not looking to just blame Trump. I want people to step up and create better solutions. That's what I want.
Well, we're all for it too. Yeah. So is the American people. And you just had a guy on, was his name Gary, he was talking about he was retired and stuff like that. So my husband, so are we, and
Yeah.
but fortunately for us, especially me. I mean, he's still working a job on the side. But anyway, for me, I mean, I don't pay anything for my Medicare or anything like that. I got it from the state because he worked for the state. So I lucked out there, thank God. That's a blessing.
Well, it's not luck. It's not luck. That was the deal. That was the deal. He put in the time, and that was the deal. And now what we've done is allowed companies to change the deal. And they've made everything so expensive that even states can't support the burden anymore. You have to attack the cost structure. You have to. The way you deliver the money isn't relevant. All right, next question.
One more last quick call from Becky from Pennsylvania, also from Pennsylvania.
Becky, what's your question?
Chris, hello. I thankfully following Linda in Pennsylvania. As I sit in Pennsylvania tonight, very close to Mount Airy Casino, so close, in fact, I heard the helicopters tonight, and I thought I was going to be sick when the audience was, after the president spoke about gas prices, and the audience was clapping. And I'm approximately 40 minutes away from his location, and my gas prices are consistently $3.25, consistently. So my question is, maybe O'Reilly, as he speaks to President Trump often, I hear him on your show, what prices is he bringing down rapidly?
Yeah.
And I suppose, sir, Chris, love you. You keep it real all the time. So disagree with the last caller. Chris, are we really stuck listening to this nonsense for the remainder of his time in office? I'd love to hear.
Elections have consequences, and he's the president. But I'll tell you what, I'm going to bring in Leland Vittert right now to keep up this conversation, because if we're talking about affordability, we're in a way better place than we've been since the start of this administration in terms of what the topics are that have dominated us. So I hand the baton to you. Can't say I was surprised about what the president did tonight, but I do believe he missed an opportunity.
Well, I think we will see how the poll numbers, and more importantly, perhaps how the Christmas conversations bear that out. Chris, great coverage.